with the best father and son team on the internet. It's time for Homie and the Dude.
What is up, everyone? This is Homie and the Dude, the father and son MMA and TTRPG podcast and the home of the best NPCs on this damn planet. And we are delighted to have one of the most talented young fighters on the UFC roster today with us, the strawweight contender. Let's say it together. Cory Poppins McKenna. What's up, Cory? Hey, we are so glad to have you back. And I think last time we were talking to you, you were in a period after your fight where you were dealing with an injury that you suffered from during your fight. I think it's right for us to start where we left off and just ask you, how's the ankle? How are we in terms of recovery? Are you feeling strong in it? Are you kicking off of it? Like how is the ankle doing at this point in time?
Yeah, the ankle's 100%. No problems. I don't even think about it these days. Just kicking people in the head with it, all good.
Was it like a boot and shoe kind of like situation? Did you have to have a cast or anything, or was it just kind of crutches and hobble around?
I had a cast for a little bit, and then I had the boot, and then I had crutches. So I pretty much did it all.
All of it.
Yeah, I had a cast, I think, until I had the surgery, and then after that it was just like the boot and like splinting it and lots of hobbling.
Damn. But you've been out for months now of any kind of like recovery of that. It feels like you've been at pretty much full strength with your foot for a while now.
Yeah, my ankle's been pretty good for almost maybe like just under a year now. I think it took about 6 months to heal.
Thanks for watching this episode. We really appreciate you supporting Homie and the Dude.
Please hit us with the Holy Trinity, like our Facebook page, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and follow us on Instagram. Just search @Homie and the Dude. It all really helps.
Yeah, amazing. And so we spoke a little bit about this before, but you were suffering from some like headaches and stuff, and that's why you've had a little bit of a longer period off. I know you're an eager one to get in the cage and show what you can do. I wanted to ask, something that Tom and I often kind of debate and we talk about as Tom is a really big fan of Dominic Cruz, and I'm less of a fan of Dominic Cruz, but he always brings up, ring rust, and, he doesn't believe it's a real thing. He believes, as long as you're training and sparring, you can get in there and perform at the same level. Is that something that, is running through your head, or is that something where you're like, if I even begin thinking about that, it's just not a good spiral. So I'm not even going to approach that kind of thought process.
Lucky for me, this isn't the first time I've had a long layoff. I had an 18-month layoff due to some Cage Warriors. My opponent missed weight by like a ridiculous amount, so that fight didn't go ahead. And then the next fight I had booked got cancelled for COVID, and then stuff just got like pushed back and back. And then there was also another time. I feel like there was another time where I had pretty much a year off too. I've had some pretty long layoffs, given I'm so early in my career and I have the experience I do. Like I've had some really long layoffs between fights, just like due to reasons that are completely out of my control. So for me, it's not really like a concern because it's not the first time. Like say I've had a long layoff and then I've still gone out there and got the wins afterwards. That those fights that I had back to back, like I had 2 fights like a month apart, and I won both of those. That was coming off for like a year layoff, I believe. So for me, it's like, it's not something I haven't done before. So I'm not really worried about it. It hasn't affected me before. I very much doubt it'll affect me now.
I mean, do you know what? I love that as well, because it's one of those things where a lot of people, might not have, in an interesting way, it's not great that you've had long layoffs for like, other circumstances, but also in of the fact that it has given you that experience. It means that, in other circumstances where someone might not have ever had, a long layoff, that might creep back in. So that's really awesome to hear. And I'd never kind of thought about it in that way before.
Yeah, I think also just to sort of touch on this a little bit again, my sense is that I think once Macy came in, it seems like Alpha Male started, I don't know what's the right word, but supporting or developing higher level competition and training and sparring and all of that in a way that, even if you have a long layoff, you're getting such high level competition in the gym that's going to carry over.
Yeah, I'm very fortunate. Like I say, I've got some very high level girls on the mats right now. Got obviously Macy. I do pretty much like a significant portion of my work with her, and then also I've got like Yan. She's fighting March 4th, so that's what, next week.
Mhm.
You know, she's strawweight. She's ranked. She was number 3. I think she might be number 4 now. You know, she just fought Carla Esparza, so she's like right up there. You know, and then there's like some more like girls that are like on the local pro scene and stuff. So I have a very good kind of base of girls to work with and get my looks with and get that push.
Interesting. So with Yan, curious, how does that play out? And so you know that you're both, you know, strawweight contenders. Yan is at 3 or 4, so she's in that top 5. You're up and coming. In the gym, are you tending to work with each other? Are you tending to you know,
you
pick your
mental
spots?
notes?
Yeah.
You're like, oh, I'm going to remember that one there.
Yeah, we get like a significant, you know, we get a significant amount of work in. Like I say, I work a lot with Macy and everything, and like kind of just split between the two. Like I say, I'm very lucky to have them, especially for my rounds and stuff. Obviously, I feel like with all women fighters, things are very competitive, but it's like I say, it's great looks, and we're never going to fight each other at the end of the day. You know, she's years ahead of me. We're teammates, so like for me, it's just good to get those looks in on the mats and like have that competitive kind of realistic kind of like gauge as to where I am, you know, because you know, like Macy's great, but she's also like, you know, she's a 125, she moves different. Whereas like Yan is probably the most realistic look I'm gonna get to like simulate what's gonna happen in a fight.
That's, you know, and it's so important that you have that, because I know, like, again, there's people who, you know, struggle to find the training partners, and, you know, that it's a really big part of, you know, getting the right camp and stuff like that. So it's awesome to hear that, you know, Alpha Male at the moment is, you know, still really like filling your boots with all the things that you need in terms of your training and all the bits and bobs. It's really nice to hear. And it's something that Tom and I really respected about you when we met you last time, was just your consistency of, you know, remaining with the people that, you know, you have stuck with from the beginning, people like Jack and, you know, now Uriah. And like, it seems like, you know, you're cultivating this career that is going to, you know, likely continue with this team. And, you know, I likely bring, you know, Alpha Male back into, you know, some of these big names and stuff like that, you know, with your success. So I think that's awesome. I think that's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I do too. And I think, so let me ask you this as well, because you mentioned, I'm not sure if it was the case last time we spoke, but Danny was a big part of your, let's say, one of your head coaches in training. Is it different? So do different fighters have different, let's say, lead coaches that are working with them most often? And is Danny still the guy, and did I get that right or wrong? Is Danny still the guy that's spending the most time with you these days?
Yeah, definitely. Danny's actually the only coach that I'm able to bring to London with me. So he's going to be coming over like as my head coach kind of role. Like I say, Jack's going to be there, and I'm going to have a teammate with me too. But you know, Danny's the guy that's been there day in, day out, putting in work. You know, yeah, he's great. You know, I work with him multiple times a week. He comes in to watch my sparring. You know, we text each other, check in. Like Danny's great. Like I owe a lot to him. Obviously, Uriah puts a lot of time into me too. Like I don't want to take anything away from that. And I work, like I say, I work through maybe 3 times more with Joey, and he watches my sparring and coaches me too. So like I'm very lucky to have like a solid base of coaches out here. Like I get working with all of the top guys. But Danny definitely kind of, you know, takes the lead a little bit. Like he's the one coming over to the fight, and yeah, I'm very grateful for him and all the work he does for me.
That's so lovely to hear. And do you know what's interesting as well? We were watching your last fight, and in the corner, you know, Danny getting very verbal and like giving you lots of really great advice. And one thing that I loved about his coaching style was the clarity and the specificity of what he was, you know, giving you in between the rounds. I want to ask you what you kind of believe like the secret sauce is to like a good like corner man fighter relationship. Is it like, you know, understanding emotional state? Is it like good open communication? You know, is it like amping someone up? Well, what do you believe is that secret sauce? Yeah.
I don't think there's like a cookie cutter kind of, you know, like response to this, because I think every athlete is different. Like I actually had this conversation with a couple of the guys the other day, because like one of my main things I like about Danny is, like you say, he's very clear, he's very direct, he doesn't sugarcoat anything. Like I'm one of those people that like I need to be yelled at, I need a bit of tough love. Like if you start sugarcoating stuff and everything, like it doesn't really work for me. Like I need to kind of, you know, just be very direct to the point. Like say like if I'm messing up, tell me I'm messing up. Like you know, I respond better to that tough love kind of like say I always said to everyone, I'm like the second if someone says do this, I'm like, okay. If Danny yells at me and he's like, do this now, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna do it, you know. So I need that. Obviously there would be a lot more expletives in that, but yeah, like I need that kind of harsh, tough love, like very direct response, which is why I think I work so well with like people like Danny and that. You know, my dad's actually my running coach, and he used to be the same. Like he would, you know, I'd be on the treadmill, he'd be yelling at me, and you know, it would always, you know, light fire. So for me, that's how I respond best. But there are fighters that, like say, like their coaches have been like that, they start getting in their head and they're worried that they're disappointing them, blah blah blah, like they need to be sugarcoated a little bit. So for me, I think it's completely down to like not maybe understanding the athlete, but also I feel like athletes naturally like kind of, you know, go towards coaches that fit their style, which is why I drifted more towards Danny. But yeah, like I think it's just a case of like really like what works best with the athlete, knowing how to deliver like responses. You know, I used to corner my mum and I used to yell at her like so much. I remember one of the guys was judging and it was mid-fight, and I remember I was so mad at him, but I was obviously distracted to actually say anything. And I remember him just like tapping me on the shoulder and being like, hey, try to like be a bit more like positive with your reinforcement, you know, this is great, but let's do this. And I'm like, she's getting punched in the face. I'm like, I'm gonna tell her to keep her hands up. I'm not gonna be like, this is trying to beat that jab, you know, like I'm like no, I need, you know, I like instructions just delivered like how they need to be. And I remember like him being like, yeah, like let's try to be a bit more positive with our whatever. And I'm like that might work for some people, but you know, like that's not my style. So I think it really like I say comes down to the athlete. Yes, like I remember someone said to me, like a couple of my cornermen, they were like, oh, they seem really quiet, and I'm like, their voice carries, I can hear them, like, you know, they're people I trust and I care about, like, so I can hear them. So I think that's big too, like, you know, if it's someone that you actually listen to and respect, and like say you can hear them when you're in there, there's nothing worse than like being in there and not being able to hear the people that are yelling at you, you know, like Jack and Danny are like two people I'm so used to listening to them that I kind of like, even if everything's loud, like I can hear their voices, you know, like it's kind of like singled out amongst the crowd. So I think that's a huge thing too.
Yeah, so that's interesting because the last fight was at the Apex. And so you have the dynamic of probably clearly hearing Jack's voice or Danny's voice, maybe Uriah's voice. We're going to be at the O2 in 3 weeks, and it's going to be a lot louder. So even in that crowd where you've got, you know, I don't know what it is, 15 to 20,000 people in there, you're representing on the night, you know, it's going to be loud for you. Like you're going to have a lot of love. Will you still be able to hear their voices through all of that?
Yeah, like I said, it's not the first time I've fought in front of large crowds. Like obviously it's not going to be as big as the O2. Like the O2 is definitely going to be the biggest crowd I've fought in front of. But luckily with Cage Warriors, like they did their best to deliver that real feel. Like, you know, the ice arena and stuff like that was huge. So, and I never had a problem before. Like I know, like I say, it's not quite on the grand scale of the O2 and everything, but I can't see it being too much difference. You know, like say, like I can always hear them clear through the crowd. Like I'm kind of like tuned in to listen to them, you know. So I think
it's crazy.
I don't see it being a bother.
It's an awesome thing that fighters can do, and like it's almost, I wonder whether it's the bond that you build or whether it's that pure, like when you're in that pure animalistic moment, you can fine tune to what you need to hear. I'm interested in the science of that.
I am too.
Sure.
Like literally, if you think about it, like just take it out of like a fight dynamic, take it into like a lot of noise, right? And your human ear is being able to pick up this precise thing that you're used to, but in the context of all of it, it's like maybe 1/1000th of the volume, and it's still being able to pick up, you know, in your case, you're picking up words, strategy, you know, all of the messaging that they're giving you is pretty interesting, isn't it?
Awesome.
Yeah. So tell us about, so you talk about Jack, you talk about Danny, you talk about your teammate that's going to be there as well. Dad, your running coach. Mom has she started this whole thing basically. What's the representation going to be from Team McKenna, the direct, you know, like small circle going to be on the night?
Yeah, has anyone rocking up got tickets for the show and coming out to the O2 to watch live?
Yeah, my whole family's going to be there. You know, I've got a lot of friends coming too. Like, you know, all the people from back home pretty much. And those couldn't get tickets. I know that they've already made arrangements to you know, like set up and watch it. So it's going to be great. That was one of the main reasons I wanted the London card. They actually offered me a fight in February, and I was like, I'm down for the fight. I was like, but move it to London. So it was kind of big for me because, like, you know, my dad's like disabled, so like for me it's like I don't he probably would try, but I want him to come to a UFC fight, and I don't want him to have to, you know, fly thousands of miles to come and do it, you know. So for me to be able to have him there, like pretty close to the cage and everything, like that's kind of big for me. Like, you know, he's been at every fight in my career. You know, like, you know, he flew to Ireland with me, like, you know, he's all through my career growing up, you know, he's been at like every single fight. Like, he used to drive me like 4 hours to jiu-jitsu competitions just to see me like lose to the same girl I always lose to, and then drive me back. Like, you know, like, he's been so invested in my career, and he's done so much for me. Like, it was huge for me to kind of have him at least one, you know, big show. And, you know, they only come back to London like once a year. So when I heard that the London card was going ahead, I was like, I need to be on this.
That's freaking heartwarming. That's lovely. As a father and son, you know, that's nice to hear.
It's super cool. It's heartwarming, but it's also like, I can tell how, it means a lot, but, you know, it is an additional bit of motivation for you. Like, you got your squad there, and, you know, representing, which is really, really cool. I mean, you also have Arnold Allen will be there as well in the building. You guys are, you know, long time sort of, what do you want to call it? Like teammates or colleagues as well, fighting on the night. So a lot of, you know, your history is going to be in that building that night, which is pretty cool. Yeah, that's a really exciting thing. Now, I guess a good question to ask you is, you know, how you're feeling about your opponent coming up. You know, you're fighting Elise Reed. You know, she's known for having some really good striking. She has submitted a couple of people and has looked strong in some of her fights on the ground. But I want to just see where your kind of thoughts are. Is there anything where you're like, yeah, you know, I'm going to be watching out for this or anything like that? Or are you just like standard game plan, go in there and adapt in the moment?
Yeah, pretty much, like, say, standard game plan, go in there, read it. Because, like, one thing I've learned is you can't, like, you can anticipate tendencies perhaps, like, from watching and everything. And I know studying tape is good, and a lot of people function well off that. But for me, it's like, you know, I've had fights where, like, I've watched girls and been like, oh, she sucks. And then they've come out and they've been, like, the best fighter I've seen them be. Because people, you know, sometimes, like, especially on this level, like, people are training, like, to their best abilities. They're giving it their all. Like, they're going to make progression at the end of the day. Like, no one's going to come out and be the same fighter as their last fight. So I'm anticipating, you know, her definitely having made some adaptations and some improvements, especially coming off of a loss. You know, I know she's probably going to be, and in my home crowd, you know, she's going to come out aggressive. She's going to have a, like, you know, a point to prove. So I'm expecting the best Elise Reed on the night. And, you know, I'm just confident in the fact that, you know, I'm going to deliver the best Cory McKenna, and that's going to get me the win. You know, I'm training all round. I'm prepared for wherever it goes. And yeah, on the night, I'm hoping to, you know, put a finish on it and prove everything to everyone.
Yeah. So you're training all around. One of the things we were wondering is, I know, you know, coming out of a fight, you've had now nearly a year and a half. Any emphasis on a particular part of your game, especially coming out of the K fight, where, you know, there's stuff on the ground, really nice striking, both of you, lots of clenching. I mean, it was a pretty well-rounded fight, wasn't it? Yeah. But anything coming out of that you're like, you know what, I need to clean this up, or I'm all right here, but I need to get to the next level. So I think especially because my entire career I've trained everything equally. So I don't think, like, for me, like, specializing in one area isn't really, it's an option, but I also don't think it's something that necessarily will benefit me. I've just continued to train everything all around. You know, there's improvements to be made, striking, wrestling, grappling, like there always is. So for me, I'm trying to make that progression, like, all the way up with everything. And, you know, because the goal isn't to be the best striker, the best grappler. The goal is to be the best mixed martial artist. So for me, like, I want to make sure that I'm coming out there, like I say, fully prepared all around. And I'd like to put on another well-rounded performance, you know?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, you know, we're confident that you're going to deliver and come with some fire on the night. Do we want to like publicly, like, say, you know, typically, like, you know, podcast interviewers are not supposed to put their hat in one corner or the other. I'm going to add.
We're just gonna say it. We're behind you. We're behind you on March 19th. We want you to
100%
to be at your best and to shine in that moment, to bask in that moment, to come out the other end, you know, the next step in your career.
With that being said, do you have any plans for any post-fight stuff? Like, are you planning like on hitting the town in London afterwards? Like, win or lose, are you heading back to Wales and like going tearing up the valleys? Like, what's the situation going to be in terms of a post-fight? What's it looking like?
So I've planned to stay for 2 weeks after the fight. I'll be going back to Wales. Maybe hang around for like a day or two so I can go see my friends from, you know, when I was training in Colchester. I'm not really one for partying and stuff, so I'll probably just, you know, go grab some food with my family and my coaches and stuff, and probably like a Nando's pretty much every day because they don't have that out here. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm wild.
To be fair, like it's the small things you miss, isn't it? When you're away from home, it's the small things, the Nando's, you know, the being with family. Like I appreciate that.
How many moments have you been thinking about Nando's in the last few weeks as it gets closer? So there's weight
cut is happening as well.
There's Nando's. There's getting your hand raised. Where are we with that?
Last time, like we were like 2 weeks out. So they don't really have like halloumi cheese out here. Like you can get it, but it's in like specialty places. Like no one really knows what it is. And I remember talking to someone about Nando's, and I was talking to them about their like halloumi cheese, and they looked at me. They're like, "You're tearing up," and I was just like, "Yeah, I was like, I love this."
Corey, you didn't tear up that much when you got the call from Dana that you're going to be in the UFC. It is what it is, right?
No, that's bloody amazing. Great question is, how is the weight cut going? You know, you, from what we can see on social media, you're looking really lean, you're looking quick, you're looking sharp. How are you feeling in this weight cut? Is this a better one, more of a struggle? How's it going for you on your end?
Yeah, I'm on track, you know, like weight cut to weight cut at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I'm on track, you know, it's not going to be crazy hard. I'm definitely not small either. You know, I feel like I'm pretty comfortable where I'm at. You know, I feel like I've still got my strength. I feel like I'm still in good shape. Like, you know, I feel strong for this one. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. You know what I can sense? Like the last time we spoke, and this is not a reflection on anything, but we're getting closer to a fight. I can just sense a little bit more like you're just on it a little bit more, just a little bit more serious, a little bit more focused, a little bit more like all business. And I get it. I understand it. Is that typically what your tendency is as you're like, when do you start turning up the dial of like, whatever it is, less social media, less contact? What is your routine to start getting into like that pointing your focus?
I'm pretty much like that year round, to be fair. Obviously, like I say, I'm coming off a couple of injuries. Like, you know, it's difficult when you can't really train. But yeah, like the last few weeks, like all I've done is eat, sleep, train, repeat, you know, just living the lifestyle. And like say, I try to keep that up year round, but like say, like I don't really believe in training camps either. Like my conditioning and everything, like I do it year round, but it becomes tailored towards the fight about 8 weeks out. But yeah, the second the contract signed, like I remember before Christmas, I was considering going home for like a little bit over Christmas. But I actually signed the fight, I want to say it was like early December. The second my signature hit that paper, I was like, nope, I just got to train all day, every day. Like that's when it, like the second I have like, you know, something to aim for, like I'm so 100% sole focused on that.
I really like the year-round cardio thing. That's a big. I know that there's a couple of fighters that definitely, you know, believe in that and operate in that way. I also know there's other fighters, you know, like freaking Paddy Pimblett's out there. You know, like guy goes from like 155 pounds up to 200 in like, you know, it's 2 weeks or something. I was gonna say ridiculous. So, you know, I definitely understand that, and I think, for me, like if I was doing, I would definitely want to keep year-round cardio, because it definitely makes your body more used to that, you know, and it keeps it in that kind of space. So I definitely think that's a good idea.
I even think the term like fight camp, Chael Sonnen was talking about this once, which is basically like, that's a term that was just sort of created for people that don't train all year round, so that they can put together a focused bubble of training that gets them back into shape. But like, he's like, we shouldn't be doing that. We shouldn't even be calling it a fight camp. It's like, you know, we're athletes, we're professional athletes. This is what this is our jobs. This is what we should be doing at a high standard. Yes, we're tightening things up as we get closer, but it isn't like a full on and a full off thing. You know, it doesn't need to be, I'm not in camp and now I am in camp.
Yeah, be like the progressions and stuff are made out of camp, the main ones, you know, like I'll be doing 3-4 sessions a day, maybe more. Since the headaches, like I've actually tried to be smarter. So like, you know, I've been focusing on like not doing 3 killer sessions a day and then squeezing in like extra stuff on top, you know. I definitely had like I was definitely overtraining for a very long time. So for this camp, like I'm hoping, you know, I'm hoping to come out and also like say like have that benefit my performance too. Like I've been a lot smarter this camp, you know, I'm still training every day, I'm still doing multiple sessions a day, but I've definitely been a lot smarter in like tailoring it towards like I'm not just burning myself out of both ends, you know. And I'm hoping that, you know, that pays off. But like say like out of camp, like that's when I'm doing my most work. That's when like, you know, that's when I'm lifting big, I'm you know, I'm sparring hard, I'm doing all that stuff, because that like that's when I'm making the out of camp gains. I feel like that's when you work on yourself, you focus on yourself, you know, like in camp, like it's more about like honing the skills you already have, you know. I'm not looking to like learn jiu-jitsu technique, I'm not looking to like do that, you know. Like they say, we're always improving, and we're always like say my coaches will always like you know, critique stuff and adapt stuff and like, you know, on the fly. But at the same time, like I'm not gonna go do like, does it make sense? Like I'm not trying to like learn
totally.
like say like I'll go and, you know, study like a few hours of jiu-jitsu and sit there and do like all the technique and all that, like whereas like in camp I'm kind of just like trying to hone the skills that I already have, trying to sharpen up, trying to like, you know, make sure that I'm like fight ready, as opposed to just focusing on myself and improving my skills.
It sounds like what you're saying is that basically, you know, during the time where you're leading up to fight, it's more about sharpening the blade, as opposed to, you know, when you're outside of camp, you know, you're actually making new weapons for yourself all around, and you know, growing your arsenal of tools, both defensively and offensively. And I mean, I fully understand that as well. You know, when it's almost like that thing as well. It's very hard to learn things when there's pressure and like so much focus as well. It's not always a conducive space for like learning and picking up new things. However, I agree with you, you know, like sharpening stuff, refining is something that is a lot easier done under pressure, and, you know, in a space where you're, you know, getting close to something that's important to you and things like that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I want to ask you, oh, sorry, go for it.
Sorry, I was gonna say like you say, like for me, like camp is like, you know, quality over quantity, whereas like outside of that, once I haven't got anything signed, like I do quality and quantity, you know. I'm not worried about, like I said, I'm not worried about if I'm tired, if I'm hurt, like you know, I'm not as worried about picking up little injuries, like I've said, rather not, but like, you know, like little insignificant, like, you know, niggles and stuff, like I'm not really as worried about that. Whereas like when I have a fight booked, it's like for me, especially after like the last year, like getting to a fight healthy is my priority now, not like as high as the other stuff, you know.
Yeah, it's a really important thing, and that leads me actually perfectly into what I was going to ask you, which is, you know, if this fight, whatever the ending is, but you'll whoop her ass. Well, once this fight ends, you know, and, you know, say no injuries happen, you come away pretty clean from it. Are you hoping to fight multiple times this year? Are you hoping to, you know, get 1, 2, 3 in this year? Or are you hoping to like get this one in, recover, and then see where you're at? Basically, do you not have much of a plan for this year?
Yeah, I think due to the unpredictability and the fact that nothing ever, you know, seems to go the way I plan when I make long-term goals, I've kind of just been sticking with I'm taking it one fight at a time, assessing afterwards, and then, you know, I'd always want to stay more active. I always want to get as many fights as possible. I'm not going to put a number on it though, because I just end up being really disappointed. I wanted 4 last year, and then like here we are. So yeah, so I'm not gonna put anything on it. I'm just gonna, you know, take things as they come, and hopefully I can be more active and I can put on more fights and everything. But, you know, this one's got my sole focus right now.
Well, do you know what? It sounds like you are ready. You are primed. It sounds like your mind is in the right place. And it sounds like we're speaking to a more mature, a more developed Cory McKenna than we spoke to last time. I'm really excited to see, you know, what this version of you brings to the cage, brings to the game entirely. And otherwise, thank you so much for taking the time today to just
especially
have a chat with us. I know it's early as hell in the morning for you,
but also it's also 3 weeks before a fight, so that's not typical. We really appreciate that. You know, I know after a fight it's a lot easier, but before a fight, thanks for spending some time with us and giving us a little bit of insight as we get closer to the date.
And Hey, no, it's not a problem, and we're massive fans, and we truly believe in, you know, the Stone Sports management team. You know, we're fully behind you guys, and super excited to see both yourself and Arnold get in there and you know, prove why our part of the world is you know, up for some contention. But what I want to do is just hand over to you and give you a space, you know, to shout out, you know, your socials if you want people to follow that, you know, any sponsors or anything like that, so that you can do that. Go for it.
Yeah, cool. You know, Twitter and Instagram, Cory McKenna 99. Like I say, we've shout out Stone Sports Management, my management team. That's Jack Mason. He's a legend. And then Franklin Group for, you know, sponsoring me and helping taking off a little bit of that financial burden, because life is expensive. So thank you very much.
Hey, it has been an absolute honor, and we have been excited for this interview. And like we said, we're boundlessly excited for March. So thank you so much. We hope you have an amazing day. And yeah, this has been Homie and the Dude, father and son podcast. For us guys, hit us with the Holy Trinity. Subscribe to the YouTube. Follow us on Twitter. And if you can, check out our website, HOMIEandTheDUDE.com. All of our content, literally every piece. This will be on our website soon. So go check out our website. Other than that, thank you so much for watching today, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Cory.
Thank you.
Hey guys, thank you so much for watching Homie and the Dude today. We hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit us with the Holy Trinity. Go follow us on Twitter, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and like the Facebook. It's the best way that you can help us out at the moment. Hope you have an awesome day. Thanks for watching, guys.